Okay, so I started to do some speed modeling based on Too Tall Toby's stuff. I had seen him on some feeds, and then I saw him on the Tech 3D channel. He had talked about it. It's been like a year ago, and I didn't do anything. And I saw him over on Teaching Tech, where he just had a video about it, and I thought, well, I'm going to give that a shot. But I ran into a couple of problems with materials. I guess if I'd watched the whole video that Teaching Tech did, they actually showed what the materials are. But I couldn't find them immediately. I'll see if I can help you out. I'm also using Fusion, not Onshape, so things are a little bit different. So here was the problem. I'm doing some practice models. You go into practice models, pick a model, click here to practice, and it says, oh, make sure your templates and materials are configured. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the material? I don't know. It doesn't say. And so to find out, you're going to click here to start, and it still doesn't say. Now, it does tell you what your units are going to be for the mass. If the units are in grams, if the mass is in grams, then your units will be metric. If your mass is in pounds, your units will be in inches. I believe that's what I've experienced so far. But I still don't know what material this model is going to be. If I want to set it up, if I reveal the drawing, it starts my timer, and now I'm under pressure, and I can see what the density is and what the material is. So now I know that. But if I am in my drawing and my units don't, if my density doesn't match perfectly, then I'll never get the right answer. So that's the problem I had. Now, I also saw where the mass for the material was on the Teaching Tech video as well. I hadn't watched the whole video. So I emailed or contacted Toby. Let's get out of here. I contacted Toby, and he was kind enough to email back and tell and say what the density of the material was. They only used 3 materials. Here's the density. So that's good. Now, the density here is in kilograms per meters cubed, which is not what Fusion uses, so we have to do some conversions. And we want to have that in a library so you can access it very quickly instead of having to reset that. Adding a little bit, these are the actual numbers. The red numbers are the numbers that will go into Fusion, because Fusion is working in grams per centimeter cubed instead of kilograms per meter cubed. Again, metric, you just moved the decimal point over, but these are the actual numbers that will go into Fusion. Okay, so being able to add a material quickly to our part. Problem with standard Fusion is when you go to physical properties. Let's say this was going to be carbon steel. You'd go to metal, and you'd have to find carbon steel, which is way down here. Steel carbon, drag that and drop it. Now that's carbon steel. Problem is when we look at the density, it's 0.0078, which should be correct, but when we look under advanced, physical, mechanical, it's actually 7.85 instead of 7.800. So that density is off just a little bit from too tall Toby's carbon steel density, which will give you the wrong answer in all of your for your mass, and of course that is no good. So we don't want to have to do that every time. We want to be able to find the material quickly. I'm thinking the best way to do that is actually to create a new library and populate it with our Toby materials. In order to do that, we'll go up here to Modify, come down to Manage Materials. A couple of ways you can get to Manage Materials, but under Modify, we've got that. Now we've got our material browser here. What we can do is we can find, well, the first thing we'll do is, I think we'll click this button down here and create a new library. So let's create a Toby material library in our Fusion Materials folder. Save that. We now have a Toby Materials library that doesn't have anything in it. Now we could take our material, let's go metal, and I'm just going to use aluminum. You could actually right click aluminum and add it to Toby material. But the problem with that seems to be is that when we go to edit it, and we edit it here, it adds the material to favorites and displays it in the editor, and it will change the material in favorites. And I've got a couple of materials up here. I'm going to delete those. I'm going to delete that. It will edit it in favorites, but it won't change what's in Toby material. So I think what we're going to do is go in here to metal, find our aluminum. We're going to click edit and add it to favorites. Now we're going to edit our aluminum, and we have to take and drag this out, and look, there's more. So now our aluminum here is in favorites, but we don't want that aluminum to be there. We want to rename it. So we're going to call that aluminum 1060, which I think is what Toby uses, dash Toby. So we're going to call it 1060-Toby. Now we can actually edit. When we edit that material, we're going to be editing that material. And actually that 2700 I think is correct. Yes. Okay, so that one would be fine. So we can apply that. Okay. Then we will go back to metal, we'll go down to carbon steel, carbon, and we will edit that and put it in favorites. And now we can edit our carbon steel. When we edit that, we see that our steel is at 7850 instead of 7800, actually 7.8 again, decimal places because of, so we make that 7800, apply that, and right click, rename steel carbon dash Toby. So now that's there. If we edit it, that's 7800. We edit this, that's 2700. And now let's go to plastic, ABS plastic, edit, add it to favorites. We edit that, check our mechanical properties, our densities 1.060. That density should be 1.020, 1.0, come on, 0.0, oh, let's try this 1.020. We can apply that, say OK. So now if we got it, right click, rename ABS plastic dash Toby. We edit that 020 2700 7800. So now those materials are all okay. And now now we can right click on that material and add it to Toby material. Right click on that, add to Toby material. Right click on that, add to Toby material. So now Toby material looks the same as favorites. You can't tell the difference. You go in Toby material, and when you look at you see it would add it back to the favorites, which we don't want to do, but it has the correct density. So let me say cancel here and cancel here. When we go to physical materials, we can now go to our Toby material and go in the default folder. We want to make that ABS plastic. We make it ABS plastic. If we edit that, it's got it says it's 10, but if we look under advanced, physical, mechanical, it's 1.02 because it rounded down. If we make it aluminum, we check our aluminum Toby 27 advanced, that is actually 27. And if we make it steel carbon, it's steel carbon Toby, edit it 78, and it is in fact 78, not 7850. So that sets up our materials. We close that down. And now when you right click, you gotta close this before, right click, go to properties, then you will have the correct mass. Steel carbon Toby is going to have the correct mass. That should give you the correct answer. Now maybe somebody can help me here, put it in the comments or something. If you're doing this, your units in inches, I'm not sure why, but if I look at properties now, it's still giving me ounces. And I guess I could probably go into my preferences and set it to pounds instead of ounces. But I've got to take that number, divide it by 16 to put it in Toby's because he's looking for pounds. Anyway, that should give you, again, when you go to put your materials in, school materials, as long as you've got your Toby materials, they're right there. They're going to be correct. You open a new folder, a new drawing, it's in there. If you close out of Fusion, it should be in there as well. So hopefully this helps somebody that's looking for material densities for Toby or how to add them in Fusion. So thanks for watching. Got to get to work.